So this is our second thing. This is our second way to thrive in challenging times. And that is recognize there's a new normal. Things aren't the same that they were before the pandemic. A lot of things have changed, and we're going to talk about some of those. What I want to give you today is 4 ways that you can adopt or evolve your business model to what the new normal looks like. The first thing is take advantage of what you have. That means you need to take stock. What are your assets? What are your resources? What are your capabilities? And really look at those. Do you have any that maybe from before that aren't being utilized as much now? And if you do, that's where we need to adjust or pivot in order to maybe find a new use for those resources. Every time the marketplace shifts in some way, it creates gaps, and gaps are opportunities that you can take advantage of. It means a need has been created, and so you need to look at your assets and resources and see how you can fill some of those needs that have been created. We're going to talk about some of them. The second thing is address current and future needs of the market. It's not always easy to predict future needs, and it's a lot easier if you brainstorm with others in your industry. So that's an opportunity to really kind of network with others. Maybe they're not competitors because they're in a different market to you, or geographic location, or maybe their product's a little bit different, but that's an opportunity for you to just brainstorm together. What are they seeing? What kind of trends are they experiencing? And then that can help you create some predictors of what the market's going to look like going forward from here. Customer priorities have changed since the start of this pandemic, and so I did some research because I wanted to give you not just big picture stuff, but I want to give you some really good nuggets that may or may not apply to your business, but some of these will apply to all of you, I hope. So one of the things that has been, and I pulled these from studies and surveys and some different sources. People are spending more time online viewing video. So video is becoming more of a medium that businesses, maybe you didn't do video before. I didn't do Facebook Lives before, but here I am doing Facebook Live, killing it. Sort of. So if you haven't done video before, you might want to look into video as being an option for reaching your customers, whatever that looks like. The second thing of the 10 things that I pulled were people are more price sensitive because they're feeling insecure about the economy. So people are looking for a deal. If they have to spend money, they want to spend it as, they want to be good stewards of it. So they're going to look for the discount, the deal, and so forth. So that might affect how you position your messaging. Just make sure you're addressing that pain point that people are experiencing right now. The third thing is people have more of a maintain mentality. I guess that kind of goes to that price sensitivity too. They have a maintain mentality rather than a grow mentality. Before pandemic, people were in grow mode. They were like, ooh, get the new car or the new whatever. Now they're kind of like, they're wait and see mode, right? So they're less likely to experiment with something new. So this is probably not the best time to launch out with some innovative, new idea that where you're, creating new ground in the marketplace. So just be aware that, how people are feeling. They're kind of more in that maintain mode. Customers are also more anxious. So they need to feel more confident when they do business with you. And I would tie that back into your customer experience. And this is part of your brand, right? So if there's any kind of friction in that customer experience process, This is where you need to come in and really look at the way you do business and how customers choose you, register with you, go through the sales process with you, all of those things, and just make sure that all of those things are supporting the idea that customer is going to feel confident in working with you, because people are more anxious than perhaps they were before. Next one is, a recent study showed that consumers were impressed by brands that were providing a necessary service or shifting their brand to help consumers. So what that means is, maybe in your messaging you want to say things like reassuring phrases, things like, hey, we're here for you. Hey, we heard this one a lot. We're in it together, right? People want to feel that reassurance. And so you as a company, you're not just a faceless company, you're a small business and you're building relationships. And so these kinds of messaging, take the time to incorporate that into the way you communicate with your customers. This one kind of goes without saying, but we're going to say it anyway because it's like stating the obvious. People are still not 100% about being around crowds, and so they're not going to events. A lot of people are still not going to malls and things like that. So what that means is online shopping has gone crazy, right? People are buying online more than ever before. So if you don't have an online element at this point, you really need to get one, depending on what your business is. Even if you don't have an online shopping element, you should have an online element. So if you're not sure what that means for your business, ask me down below and I'll answer it, okay? Just put it in the comments. Hey, I have this kind of business and I'm not sure how I can take that online. Just put it down there and I will respond to you, okay? 40% of consumers said they prefer contactless payment options going forward. Businesses changed a lot of the ways that they did business, and consumers liked a lot of the changes. So the contactless payment options were more convenient, and for people now, it's not, even once COVID becomes a distant memory, we're a lot more hyper aware about viruses and germs and things like that than maybe we were before. So consumers are saying they like the contactless payment options. So that if you haven't gone there yet, that's something to think about. The other thing that the pandemic did was it created a more focus on the local business. And you think about it, like my husband and I, during the pandemic, we could have just eaten at home. Right? That was the easy thing to do. I could have my groceries delivered, we could make meals at home, but we were concerned about our favorite restaurants. We wanted to support them. We knew they were struggling. And so we made a point. We actually ate takeout more than we did before sitting in a restaurant, because we wanted to make sure that we were supporting those restaurants, because they weren't just restaurants to us. These are places that we frequent that are people that we know, and we knew they were struggling, so we wanted to support them. And that, I think, has been pretty universal. I think we've all kind of been aware of the business owners that in our communities that have struggled, and we've kind of stepped up to try and support them, as opposed to just ordering from a big box online or something. I think that a lot of new habits have been created, new relationships have been created, so I think that's going to continue to be a trend. So that if you're a local business, yay for you. Let's see, I got a couple more. Consumers are reevaluating their lifestyles, and a lot of people started focusing on health and wellness because they were stuck at home. So the companies that were selling gym equipment ran out of gym equipment. They couldn't keep it in stock because people started building these gyms at home, and there started to be a little bit more. They had more time. They were working from home, so there's been a little bit maybe they were cooking more, I don't know. But studies show that there's been more of a focus on health and wellness. So if you're a business that is in that arena, that's good news, and you can kind of just be aware that people are reevaluating their lifestyles. So that's something to be talking about. And the last thing is we have a whole new base of users in e-commerce from older generations who didn't want to do it before. They were not adopters of technology. They didn't want to. They were old school and they wanted to stay old school. And because of the pandemic, they were forced to learn how to register an account for online shopping, or how to set up to have their groceries delivered. And so they've gotten good at the technology. And so that's a trend that's going to continue, because we have it's increased e-commerce because we have all of these adopters of technology that weren't there before. And so they're becoming consumers. So if you have a product or service that maybe caters more to the older generation, and maybe your marketing and things was a little bit old school because you knew that's how they better responded, you might want to look at how you can shift that, because there's an opportunity there. All right, so the third way that we can kind of evolve or adopt a business model to the new normal, which is what we're talking about today, is creating a digital version of your product or service. That doesn't necessarily mean e-commerce, okay? Online and e-commerce solutions are in higher demand. We've been talking about that. But you can consider how you could do a digital version of your product or service, or you can incorporate a digital solution into complementing your product or service. So let's look at like a quick example of that. If you were a vineyard and you sold wine, right? And you had a wine store, and the pandemic hit and you went, ooh, we need to sell online, right? So you started selling wine online. Maybe the digital component for you would be to have virtual wine tastings and start creating a community of fans of your wine, of certain wines or whatever. So that would be a way that you could incorporate that digital element, and just add more to the customer experience using technology that people are now very accustomed to video conference calls and things like that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Okay, so let's talk about, this is the last way that you can kind of adopt or evolve your business model to the new normal. And that is create a new path to your product or service. So a lot of, with the consumers cutting back on their spending, and businesses are now having to make up revenue, right? If consumers stopped, what am I trying to say? This is why I love life. If your revenue has gone down as a result of the pandemic, COVID, then you need to look at where can I make up this revenue somewhere else. So let me give you an example. If you were a bakery, right, and you sold bread in your bakery or cupcakes or whatever, and then you could then sell a DIY kit. So you could ship people a DIY kit so they make bread in their homes. So it'd be fresh bread out of the oven. It would be a kind of a different version of what you were offering before. You're still offering that, but maybe bread sales are down because people aren't coming to the bakery. But then now you can do these ship to the home DIY, make your own bread kits, right? And then we can go back to the last point that we talked about and add a digital element, and you could do bread baking classes online and create another element of the customer experience.